Well, we begin in South Korea, and the head of Samsung, J.Y. Lee, has been detained, swept up in a corruption scandal that's already seen the country's president impeached. Lee will be held until a court decides on whether he should be formally arrested. His company is South Korea's biggest, but to really understand its power, we need to go back to a time when the country was on its knees. Azhar Sukri reports.
A decade after the end of the Korean War in 1953, a military dictator turned president inherited a broken, hungry nation. Park Chung-hee, the father of South Korea's current impeached president, Park Geun-hye, had little choice but to industrialize the country, and quickly. His solution was to follow the example of neighboring Japan. He gave enormous tax incentives and billions of dollars in funds to a select group of families to develop cutting-edge industries. Today, firms like Samsung, Hyundai and Hanjin are among what are known as the chaebol. They're similar in concept to the family-run conglomerates that made Japan an industrial power before World War II. Together, the chaebol account for half the value of South Korea's stock market and about the same proportion as its GDP. In other words, they're simply too big to fail. And of these, electronics and shipping giant Samsung is by far the biggest. When its flagship new smartphone, the Galaxy Note 7, had to be recalled because its batteries caught fire, South Korea's economic growth rate slowed noticeably in the third quarter of 2016. So it's little surprise that many South Koreans are nervous about the impact of the scandals surrounding the company. Samsung's acting chief J.Y. Lee has been detained. He denies that the $36 million Samsung paid into an organization linked to a friend of Park Geun-hye was in return for approval of a merger between two of Samsung's units. Regulators have been trying to break the close web of influence between the conglomerates and government for decades. In 2008, Lee's father was convicted of embezzlement and tax evasion. But the following year, President Lee Myung-bak pardoned him. But rarely has a corporate political scandal in South Korea ignited public fury like the one surrounding Park Geun-hye. Many South Koreans are hoping that it will finally break the hold on public life the chaebols have enjoyed for so long. Azhar Sukri, TRT World.
And Azhar joins us in the studio now. Azhar, just elaborate on the power of the chaebols. How deep do their tentacles stretch into politics and public life in South Korea?
Well, back in 1988, for example, the president at that time of Hyundai became a member of the National Assembly. Several other heads of chaebols have also become members of the National Assembly as well. They have also played a part in relations with North Korea, for example, via the industrial complex on the border there.
Kaesong.
Kaesong, exactly. So, you know, everywhere you turn, essentially, in South Korea, you run up against some influence from some of these companies. So, yeah, they are very much a part of
and this
South
has been
Korea.
going on for decades. So why are prosecutors now feeling bolder to go after them?
I think this boils down to how it's captured the public imagination, in a way. I think South Koreans have become quite inured to, you know, the role of the chaebols and the interrelationship between these in public life for quite some time. But this particular case has hit home to President Park in a way that no other scandal has. Also, you know, it involves elements of the religion, the national religion. It's a very personal, quite a visceral issue. And I think for that reason, it's captured the public imagination.
Do you think that this scandal will end that deep link between the chaebols and the government? Or do you think the links are too well established and too deep?
That really is the key question here. I mean, if we're talking about whether these companies are too big to fail, as we mentioned in the package there, yes, economically, they do play a very big part. But there has been a precedent for a chaebol to fail. You look back to 1999, Daewoo, for example, was a very big name in South Korea. That collapsed in the wake of the Asian financial crisis.
Right.
So there is a precedent there.
We'll have to wait and see. Azhar, thank you very much for your analysis.